speaking of rooting for things, there's probably just a few Barcelona fans or maybe some Wolfsburg fans who are happy about some recent events in their club's history. Let's talk about Women's Champions League. The UWCL semifinals have concluded. We now know the final two teams who will compete on June 3rd for the Champions League title. It will be FC Barcelona versus Wolfsburg for all the marbles, but we got to talk about how they got there. Barcelona advancing on a 2-1 aggregate against Chelsea FC. What a little bit of a nerve-wracking series at time from leg 1 to leg 2. Tough draw, I think, if you're Chelsea going up against what is essentially the most informed and greatest club in the world at this moment. Just Barcelona and their ridiculous streak, but whether it's in the domestic league or in Champions League. 2-1 aggregate. Carolyn Graham Hansen, the bit of a hero in this one in terms of producing the goals for Barcelona moving forward. But I think if anything, this game, this 2-leg series just sort of showed the type of machine essentially that Barcelona is. I think it wasn't a bad plan that Emma Hayes had with Chelsea, and I thought that they did a really good job at times of having these really long stretches of very organized and defensive shapes. But they're just, at the end of the day, it's like Barcelona just had way too much, in terms of what they can bring to the pitch for their individual talents, to kind of get the breakthrough. And it's wild to think about that because, this is a Barcelona team that's been doing all of this without their 2-time Ballon d'Or winner, Alexia Putellas. And there was even that little bit of like a teaser that, hey, maybe she's going to be back in time for the semifinals, right? But their head coach saying they didn't want to take any risk whatsoever.
And there was no need. I mean, there was no need in that game. Like, what's the point of having her come back and just to get a couple minutes in that game? I mean, the only need to me is that then she can play in the final, and she's already got a game under her belt. Yeah. But I agree. I mean, I don't think it makes a lot of sense why Putellas didn't play in this game, but it was crazy that the goals were essentially back to back, 5 minutes apart. Barcelona scoring first, so then going up 2-0 on the aggregate against Chelsea, and then Chelsea getting one back, trying to fight, get a second one, because based on the aggregate, they would have had to at least get 2 goals against Barcelona in order to push it into overtime and push it into the penalty kicks. They can't do that. Barcelona holds off. This Barcelona side, Sandra, is just such a force to be reckoned with. They've got 108 goals in their club play right now, in the Primera División that they're playing in. 108 goals, and now they're just on this incredible tear, going to the UWCL finals. Massive for them. Not totally an easy road, right? I mean, they definitely had easy moments, but not a total walk in the park for them, because they have dealt with a bit of injuries and things here and there. But I mean, a really good game between Barcelona and Chelsea. And that was just the first in a pair of semifinals that we got to see. After Barcelona wins and they move on and advance, then we got to see the next set of games coming up between Arsenal and Wolfsburg, and both of those clubs knowing that they're going up against Barcelona at this point when they played just this week on Monday.
Listen, I know the goal scorers get all the glory, and Graham Hansen had definitely delivered for Barcelona. I mean, this is a player that's no stranger to stepping up for this team in Champions League moments. I mean, she was one of the players that scored in their Champions League title winning game in 2021. But I'm so impressed with what we're seeing from Tatiana Bonmati. I think, especially in light of having lost Alexia Putellas for so long, this is the player for me that has sort of been like the make or break, the tone setter for Barcelona throughout their matches, particularly in Champions League as well. And I think, look, if you're Wolfsburg, that's like a player that you're looking at and saying, we have to try and contain or isolate and eliminate their impact in this future title game, because it's a little bit different from what they were facing against Arsenal. This game, a little bit different in terms of the goal aggregate. It ends 4-5 in this one. Both of these teams heading into Emirates Stadium in London for the second leg on a 2-2 aggregate. So it was mostly even going into this game. Maybe you made an argument or so for Arsenal that they were perhaps carrying that momentum into this second leg because they were the home hosts and all of the excitement about the sellout in this game and sort of the trajectory of this club at this moment in terms of Arsenal's own history within Women's Champions League. So I mean, it's like the scenes were set. I mean, it was all there. It was all written. It was like, hey, buckle up because you're going to get treated to another one of these kind of maybe sort of end-to-end, maybe frantic type of games between these two teams. And I think they both delivered for sure.
Completely. I mean, 60,000 at the Emirates for Arsenal Wolfsburg. Massive. To have that many football fans out to that stadium to watch this semifinal. Unfortunate for Arsenal, right? This is a team that has just been plagued with so many injuries. And this game ultimately between the Gunners and Wolfsburg came down to depth. And we could see that Wolfsburg started rotating players, which brought on fresh legs, which brought on a bit of a spark for Wolfsburg. And Arsenal just couldn't keep up at that point. Towards the end of this semifinal, Arsenal really just pushing for a draw because they were just trying to get to penalty kicks, right? If they came out with a draw, they made it to penalty kicks. It's no more running. It's a quick little run up before a kick. And that's where Arsenal thought that they could try to get ahead of Wolfsburg. Honestly, I mean, a smart play by Arsenal, right? Because you know that you're going up against a deep team in Wolfsburg that's got a lot of players. But I mean, if Arsenal somehow won this game and then they went on to play Barcelona, like it would not have been pretty. It wouldn't have been pretty. I'm just going to be very frank and honest with it. It would have been amazing, but Barcelona would have just steamrolled a little bit in terms of depth, right? In terms of depth, totally. I mean,
it's wild to think about, like, when it came to this semifinal between these two teams, that, like, what was the X factor for either side? And for Wolfsburg, it was literally just like having a bench.
that was it.
Essentially, it's like you hate to see it kind of come down because Arsenal just in this absolute fight that they have presented throughout the duration of their really probably their knockout rounds of the Challenge Cup, and just having lost significant player after player after player. I mean, maybe earlier in their season, being without Vivian Miedema or Beth Mead, but then recently losing a Kim Little for the remainder of your season in Champions League, and then Leah Williamson as well. It almost felt endless. It's like I think at one point, when I was reacting to the game live, that I just referred to it as like a kind of a cruel joke. An injury, more injuries occurring in this semifinal as well. Like Arsenal having to pull players out as well, just because of what looked like a devastating knee injury. But it's funny to hear you talk about like this team trying to push for something like penalties, because I think in my written preview of this, I made a prediction and I said, okay, I think it's going to go, let's have all the high dramatics. They're going to go end to end again. There's going to be another draw and we're going to go into extra time and penalties, but that I would give the advantage to Wolfsburg, because I just sort of felt that even if Arsenal had enough in their cannon, not to make a pun, but able to get through something like 2 periods of extra time and then penalties, I just sort of felt that like their legs would have just been jello at this point. It just would have been so much effort. Yeah, it would have been
watching this because it did go into double extra time. The Pauline Bremer not scoring the game winner for Wolfsburg until the 119th minute into that double overtime that they saw. So their legs were jello at the end of this one.
I was just like, man, if it goes to penalty, it's just, I don't know what type of penalties we would have seen.
5 minutes, it was like these poor players, because they had no rotation. That was it. Like there's absolutely no depth for Arsenal, and Wolfsburg was able to just kind of rotate through, bring on fresh legs and power. I think Alex Pop had a tremendous game. She ended up the second goal for Wolfsburg, but really fantastic. And now Wolfsburg moves on.
Talk about a presence that like a team welcomes the return of. A little bit different, right? I think when we're comparing maybe the two finalists of Barcelona and Wolfsburg, it's like Barcelona, like I keep referring to them as sort of a machine, and I'm like, they've got so much there that they can, compensate for a loss of an Alexia Putellas. And you've got Wolfsburg that's like, actually, we're gonna welcome the return of Alexandra Pop into this semifinal. And I mean, look, I think you could tell that there were some stretches there where it's like she's getting back into form. There were also some stretches there where she absolutely made an impact, obviously off of that set piece goal for the team as well. But it's the most exciting time of the year. It's Champions League. And so the next time we visit these two teams will be in the championship title game. It's going to be 1 month from now on June 3rd. It's going to be at PSV Stadium in Eindhoven, Netherlands. FC Barcelona versus Wolfsburg. Of course, you can catch all the action on CBS Sports Golazo Network. It's been a real treat for us. We've enjoyed having the knockout rounds on
Yeah,
Golazo Network.
it's been fantastic. And the studio coverage from Golazo Network, you get a pregame show, you get a little bit of halftime, a postgame show. You got to be watching it on Golazo Network. That's where you get all the best content and the breakdowns. It's been wonderful to have the two semis, the 4 matches, and then the final, June 3rd, massive, 1 month from today.
We'll see it. I know we'll be tuning in for sure. And, keeping an eye on all things Women's Champions League.